go ahead and get started. All right, so today we have a really special webinar for you guys. It's about professionalism and communication in the workplace. I feel like this is a really, really important thing that we share with you guys, because this is something that you definitely want to go ahead and carry on with you even before you start the job. But it's something that you definitely want to have, especially in your work healthcare career, whether it's from talking to recruiters, us career coaches, or your future employers. So what we have for today is going to be really, really beneficial. So we really hope that you take this in consideration. So go ahead and get started. All right, to start off, I'm going to present to you guys, as you guys know, my name is Francisco. I'm the lead team career coach. And with me, I have Ashley Emba, which is also another career coach. So if you guys have any questions and concerns, feel free to reach back out to us. All right. So how you act or don't act, and what you say and how you behave really does matter. So, especially in healthcare, professionalism and communication are really, really important to have. They're nice things to have, but it's a must-have to have, especially in healthcare, since you do a lot of first, patient care relations. So it's very important to have that. They're very fundamental to have. So every action, from a phone call that you have with a patient to how you speak to a coworker, communicate something with employers, it's very, very important. The reason why we want to do this webinar on communication, it's because even once you land a job, it's still important to have that professionalism and that communication even after. Just because you landed the job is not guaranteed. You are in your 90-day probation. So it's very, very important to have these key things. Well, one of the key things that these employers look at is your guys' patient satisfaction, your team morale, and safety. Again, a lot of these roles that you guys are going for are in healthcare. And whether you realize it or not, having a personal brand it's important. So your personal brand, it starts off even before you show up. So it starts off as in your resume. So that's a little something that we're going to go into in the next slide and give you a little bit more elaboration on that. All right. So professionalism starts before you get hired, like I mentioned. So it first starts off with your resume. Your resume is the you. This is how you first present yourself to the employers. So you want to have a clean formatted resume, no typos. This shows, the attention to detail. And also you want to tailor your resume to each job description. Most of the time, where most people, I feel like they are stuck or, run into obstacles, is because their resume isn't tailored to what they're applying to. I get it. During the job search, we get very, very excited. We just want to apply to everything, but it's very important that you tailor your resume to the job description. As you all know, AI has pretty much taken over everything. And a lot of these companies, and I'm sure you've heard us talk about it before, they are ran through a application tracking system, which is an ATS. And what it's looking for the key descriptions that we are looking for in our job description that you might have in your resume. So that's why it's important that you are tailoring your resume to exactly to what it is that you're applying for. I'm not necessarily saying copy and paste everything that's in their job description into your resume, but you definitely want to make sure that you have those transferable skills in your resume. Also, you want to show up to interviews like you already landed the job. So be on time, be prepared, and be polite to everyone. All right, interview behavior. So first things first, dress like you are starting that day. I know a lot of companies, they do offer that, Zoom call virtual interview. Even if it's a virtual interview, dress for the job. There's been times where, where I've done, conducted a few interviews and, they're candidates either in a hoodie or, hair is not fully, groomed, or, the lighting isn't perfect. You want to make sure that you have presence, whether it's in Zoom or in person, dress for the role. My best recommendation, if you don't know what to wear, Google it, Most facilities, if it's depending on the role, like say, for example, if it's an RN role or anything like that, they'll probably require you to come in scrubs, but most likely dress professional. Even in a Zoom call, it is important to have a nice, clean look. Secondly, you want to use respectful, clear, and sound confident. So there's a difference from being sounding confident and being loud. There's two different things. You know, when you're confident, it means you're being prepared and thoughtful. So big difference there. Make sure that you're clear and with your answers, you're full confident. Best recommendation is partner up with someone. Contact one of us to do an interview prep, or maybe someone, a friend, a close friend of yours, so that way you can get that momentum and it comes out right. Also, asking thoughtful questions during an interview. A good question to ask them is, what does success look like in this role? It shows maturity and genuine interest when you ask, questions in an interview. And then always follow up with a thank you message after the interview. Sometimes this works in your advantage. There's been times, where I've been working with scholars, they just had an interview and I let them know, like, reach back out, thank them for their time. It shows that you really want the position and you're taking initiative. And believe it or not, some of the times employers do like this and you might get that call and get offered that position. So always follow up with a thank you message. All right. So on the job professionalism, this is really important, especially if you just landed your first role in healthcare. So the healthcare atmosphere is different than, retail, the food industry, because you are there to provide services for these people. What they're really big in healthcare is, team collaboration, empathy, all those soft skills that they bring that you really want to showcase it. So be on time, especially the 90-day probation period. Be on time every time. For example, say if it's you go through a staffing agency, you want to make sure that you are communicative with your recruiter, with your manager, so you have, that good communication with them. Always be on time, even if you're going to be late, if you're going to call off, always reach out to your employer. Um, be coachable and solution oriented. And what I mean by be coachable is be able to take in, criticism and feedback. You know, um, the more we make mistakes, we're human, but the more feedback you're able to get, the more you're able to grow. So showcase that, that you're coachable. And of course, speak everyone with respect, treat everyone with respect, patients, janitors, administrators, any coworkers. Lastly, avoid gossip. It's honestly really toxic and it always finds its way back. Especially in the hospital setting, it word gets around. So best recommendation, avoid gossip. All right, so communication will set you apart. So good communication starts with listening, and I mean truly listening, not just waiting to speak, but listening. Don't interrupt. Make people feel heard. Match your tone to the situation. And what I mean by match the tone with the situation is, depending on, you might be thrown into a different scenario. Say, for example, if you medical assistants, depending on what department you in, you want to make sure that you come in with the right mind, because who knows, maybe you might be working in behavioral or rehab facility. So you want to be prepared for that and how you want to match your tone and why you're there. Okay. Also, one last thing, if if you don't know, don't say, don't fake it. It's best to say, well, let me find out and let me get back to you. It's best in saying, I don't know. I know, in the first couple of weeks when we first start our job, it can be a little bit intimidating and, we just don't want to mess up, but it's okay to let the employer know and let them know, like, I don't know the answer, or, a customer, say, in patient care rep, if you don't know the answer, let me find out and I'll get back to you. This sounds way better than, I don't know. So definitely keep that in mind. All right. So just like they are red flags, just like good behavior builds trust, poor behavior can quickly damage it. So examples, repeatedly showing up to work. That is one big red flag for employers, not showing up to work and also not being communicative if you're not going to be sure to work. For example, your car breaks down, make sure to give them a call, find a solution. It's always, I always tell grads or candidates that communication is key. It's okay, if something happens, just communicate with us. It's best for us to know than us wondering if something bad really happens. So in this scenario, with showing up late to work or not showing up to at all, be communicative because most likely I can't guarantee if you're going to stay on the job or not. That's one big red flag that a lot of employers do have. People not showing up to work or being communicative, especially if you, for example, go through a contract position, for example, through an agency. These type of roles, you definitely, because, you're going through a recruiter, going through a second, party. So you definitely want to be communicative with your recruiter so that way they can communicate with the employer. So more of the story, if you are going to show up late to work, communicate with your employer or with your recruiter. Secondly is showing, I get it, we get frustrated, stuff happens where these environments are overwhelming, but eye rolling, sighing, sarcasm, body language is shown. And in the healthcare industry, they can really see that. So really watch how you showcase yourself, because that's very, very important. Um, you know, Ignoring feedback and getting defensive. Like I mentioned to you, it's okay to make mistakes. We're human. Always ask questions or ask for feedback. Don't get so defensive. I know sometimes, maybe matter might come up a certain way, maybe the way they said it, but don't take it so personal. Think of it as a way of bettering yourself and your skills. Okay. And of course, your attitude impacts patient care. And word does travel fast in the industry. So keep that in consideration. All right. So fun part. If you could definitely throw it in the chat or, throw out the answer, but let's do some real world scenarios and how would we, react to that or what should we do? So we can just pick one or two. So let's see, we'll pick number two. You made a mistake on the job. You can definitely say something on the chat or, just say it out. But what would you do if you made a mistake on the job? Well, I guess we'll take Ashley's answer. And yes, Ashley, yes, of course, we'll let leadership know first. That's very, very important. And, take feedback. Like I mentioned to you, we're all human, it happens. So don't feel like, it's the end of the world, asking lots of questions is also very important. I always highly recommend the more questions you ask, the better. To me personally, I feel like no question is stupid. Not asking a question is stupid. So that's me personally. So my best recommendation, ask as many questions as you can while you're in the training. Cool. Awesome. All right, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. I hope you guys have a lovely rest of your week. Like I said, this recording is going to be sent out to you guys. And again, any questions you guys have or concerns, whether it's your guys' resumes, whether it's the job search, where do I apply, whether it's I need interview prep, reach out to us. That's what we're here for. We'll be more than happy to assist you. Thank you, and I will talk to you guys next month.